Guten Tag, Deutsch 21:01. So here is Herr D. I have just a brief overview for some things to consider for tomorrow's test. Like I said and wrote in the email, you have several sections on the test tomorrow. There will be a listening comprehension where you'll listen to either a short dialogue or just a short excerpt, and then have to answer 5 true and false questions. And then what we'll do is start getting into, you'll have a Wortschatz section, and what I'd recommend is kind of review the vocabulary quiz that we had, and also review this text that we have right here on Station Berlin. And if you recall, we did go over this in class, but we also pointed out several verbs and nouns that the text points out, and also just key words that we went throughout the text, and those were highlighted here under Wortschatz. And I know we went through the entire section yesterday, but just try to think of some ones that really stuck out, that we've really gone over with either examples in the homework, examples in class, because obviously I'm not going to ask you every single vocab here, but just ones that we really focused on. About Berlin, think about East and West Germany, think about Germany now, today, what it's like. Think about the city and the outlay of the city. You know, obviously you have a city center, you have buildings, but what else about the city is unique to Berlin? Is it the inner city? Is it things that you can do in and out of the city? You have to think of all these areas. Also within the city, different neighborhoods and such. So just kind of point out those words. Obviously, it's good to know all these words because even though it's time-consuming, the more expanded your vocabulary is, the better off you're going to be with understanding the test and not having to worry about reading and a sentence or a text multiple times to try to get the gist of it. That said, too, when it does come time to reading through a test, just try to get the basic idea of it. You're not trying to translate every single word. If you do, you're going to take a lot of time. So what I'd recommend is going through areas that you're stronger at, perhaps, knock those sections out of the test, and then go back. Or even handle the things that you find more challenging at first, and that way when you can go through the stuff that you're stronger at, you can do those faster and near the end. So I would recommend going through this text one more time. Really some things to consider. Recall the year, think of the historical and geographical context of what was going on before and after the fall of the wall. Okay, it was separated into 2 countries, East and West, as was East and West Berlin. Okay, and then what happened post fall of the wall? What type of society was it? What was happening in Berlin afterwards, etc., etc. Okay. Also think about your blog entries and what you did for assignments with your podcast. Things that you can do typically on a weekend. Okay, think about cultural things, and I know I said to give specific examples of this, but this would be things like, culturally we have art, music, food, festivals, things like that. What else makes it culturally unique? Think of these examples and try to come up with some ideas of how you would want to express that, either written or spoken, something like that. Looking at the textbook, and I'd like to go in regarding some of the grammar. Excuse me one second. If you go into the Strukturen, okay, so we first have the Wortarten im Deutschen, okay, and this is going to go through nouns, articles, pronouns, these interrogative pronouns, wer, wen, wem, welch, okay, possessive pronouns, mein, dein, sein, etc. The indefinites, perhaps not so much. Okay, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. Okay, you have to consider all these. So if you go through the text, these would be some good pages to go over. So here, this is the first die Wortarten im Deutschen. And I would even go through die Deklination, Nominativ, Akkusativ, Dativ, Genitiv. Okay, and like I said, we're not going to really be doing specific grammar drills on the genitive, but it's still good to recognize what it is. And if you go into Moodle, I do have the 3 short videos, which are basically me just talking over my PowerPoints on the nominative, accusative, and dative. So I do those rather quickly. So just if you have any specific questions on those, please feel free to ask. But here is also a good chart to kind of go over. And this is on page 16. Let me see. I believe it does go over into page 17. No, it does not. The next one to go over would be das Verb, Konjugation, Tempus, Modus, Aktiv, Passiv. I know we didn't really go over the difference between active and passive, but it's still good to be able to recognize what the difference between active and passive voice is. Active voice would be something like Ich wasche meinen Wagen, right? I'm washing my car. Ich wasche meinen Wagen, because it includes the subject, I, and then a direct object. If it's a passive voice, it would be something like Mein Wagen wird gewaschen. My car is being washed. So now the car, instead of being the direct object, now becomes the subject of the sentence. And let's see if we can find any examples of this on here. I'm going to go to the next page, 24. And 25. There we go. So you go to page 25 of your book, active, passive. Okay, Marlene singt ein Lied über Berlin. Okay, so we have a subject, Marlene, singing a song about Berlin. Ein Lied über Berlin wird gesungen. Okay, so I didn't include the fun Marlene because I just wanted to show you the first example that I gave you. Ein Lied über Berlin wird gesungen. Okay, so a song is being sung, or is sung, about Berlin. When we had this, the fun Marlene, that's basically just, that's the agent, the person that's performing it. Okay? So just briefly go over that. It's more just to recognize these things that are going on. The conjunctive, imperative, we don't need to worry about that so much. Let's look at page 24. Tempus. This is very important. We have presence, right? And we also have perfect, imperfect, and we also have Zukunft, future, Futur. So Präsenz, zum Beispiel Marlene Dietrich singt und tanzt. Okay, and there are multiple ways to translate that. The present perfect tense, perfect, Marlene hat gesungen und getanzt, versus the imperfect, Marlene sang und tanzte. Okay, and the difference between these two, the perfect tense, present perfect, is commonly used in conversations. Hey, what did you do this weekend? Hey, was hast du dieses Wochenende gemacht? That would be common in conversation, versus written articles, reporting events, tends to use the imperfect. But that doesn't mean that you can't use the imperfect in a conversation, right? This is especially true when you're using modal verbs. Hey, was hast du dieses Wochenende? Ja, ich wollte ins Kino gehen, aber ich hatte keine Zeit. Okay, so here I used a modal verb in the imperfect, and I also used haben. Haben and sein are typically used in the imperfect tense when you're speaking about past events. I wanted to go, ich wollte ins Kino gehen, aber ich hatte keine Zeit, but I didn't have any time. So that would be saying, or you could say, ich wollte ins Kino gehen, aber ich war krank. I wanted to go to the movies, but I was sick. Okay, and then we have the Plusquamperfekt. Marlene hatte gesungen und getanzt. So Marlene had sung and danced. This we will get to more examples, I believe, in the Heidelberg Station. But just as a review, these will be good to go over. I'm going to go here to the Wortschatzen. I already gave you the PDF of the first one, but it would be good to go over these Stadt und Land, and getting to know these Berg, Einwohner, Fluss, etc., etc. Okay, because it is key to know that about the city of Berlin, because it does have typical city features to it, but it also has a lot of nature features to it. So it's good to know both of those. real briefly, I wanted to go over some of the homeworks, excuse me, because we'll have similar examples. So this one, 117, would be a good one to review, okay, because you'll have something similar. Well, you will be given the verb, and you're going to have to figure out how to conjugate that. So here, mehr als 790.000 Menschen unter 25 Jahren leben in Berlin. Okay, so we know this is leben. We reviewed all this. So I'm not going to go through all these here. But what you want to look for is the subject, and that's going to determine how you're going to conjugate. Okay, so Menschen is plural, so we're going to conjugate leben as leben instead of lebt or lebe or lebst. Okay, two nicht deutsche Bewohner, türkische Berliner und Berlinerinnen. Okay, that's also a plural. Im Zentrum Berlins, okay, liegt, right? Ein großer Park. So we're focusing on park, singular. All right. Es gibt is just kind of a general. There is, right? Studierenden would be a plural. Hotelgäste is also a plural, so that would be kommen. Okay. Mann. This is not der Mann, the man. This is Mann, and notice it's lowercase because it's you or one in general. Okay. Man hat. Okay. And then here, ein bekanntes Symbol. Okay. This would be singular. Ist das Brandenburger Tor. Okay, so you have to be prepared to recognize the subject and then also recognize, is it plural, is it singular, etc. Okay, let's have a look at one of the next ones. This is 117. Let's go ahead and look at 115. Okay, so here what we have is the verbs are already provided, but then we also have Leute, right? So what we want to do is be able to recognize what the verb is, okay? And then also we're going to have to recognize the case. Okay, so here zeigt, der Reiseführer zeigt, okay? So we have a subject and a verb, but then we also have die Leute and then das Brandenburger Tor. So we have three nouns going on here. So you have to be able to recognize the subject. Here it's going to be der Reiseführer, the one doing the action. Die Leute are the people that are being showed something. So they are the receiver of the action, therefore they are dative indirect object. Okay, and because it's a dative indirect object, and because it's plural, remember we changed die to den, and then we add a n to Leute. And this was shown on the Google Doc, right? So when I look at this, okay, and I'm pulling this up here, let's see if this works. Oh, come on. It's not letting me work on this for some reason. This was a copy from, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to the Google Doc. Bear with me real quick, and then here I'll pull up German 2101. And okay, it looks like it was left blank. So whoever used it left it all blank. So what I'll do is I may put the answers up here later on. But regardless, remember the dative plural is going to be den, so it would be den Leuten. Okay? And then let's go back to this example. Sie machen Bilder von. Okay? Well, von is a preposition, so here again we're going to have to recognize what our prepositions are. Okay? And remember, even though dative is the person to whom or for whom something is done, when you have a dative preposition, okay, this dative preposition means the thing following it. I'll call it a thing because it could be a person or a thing. They are just the object of the preposition. Okay, so here's when you have to memorize what your prepositions are. So von is a dative preposition. So we not only need to recognize that as dative, but we also need to recognize what each of these are, right? So this is dame, this is der, this is dame, and this is dane. Okay, I put that under here too. This is going to be einem, this is going to be einer, and this is going to be, excuse me, einem. Okay, good. So looking back at this example, all right, Sie machen Bilder von. So we know that it's dative, all right, and we know that die Gedächtniskirche, well, that's going to be singular, and it's also going to be feminine. Okay, so feminine, der. So von der Gedächtniskirche und, okay, we're still referring to von, and then it's Reichstag, masculine, so dem. So von der Gedächtniskirche und dem Reichstag. Good. Okay, so ein Tourist kauft ein Stück. Okay, so here's when we need to recognize that it's genitive. Kauft ein Stück, buys a piece. Die Mauer, okay, a piece of the wall, right? So genitive feminine, ein Stück der Mauer. So that's how you have to do this going through these. Ein Stück der Mauer. In, and then it's going to be dem Souvenirladen. Okay, but why is that? Well, in is another preposition. Okay? And let's see if I have them down here. Oh, looks like these might, oh no, never mind. In, okay? In is one of the Wechselpräpositionen, a two-way preposition, because it takes both accusative and dative, okay? But if they bought a piece of the wall in the souvenir shop, okay, they're not going into the souvenir shop, they're already there. So it's asking about the location. Where are they? So they are in. So that's kind of how you have to differentiate the two when you see any of these prepositions. Are they going to the location, or are they already there? And that's going to determine whether it's not, accusative or whether it is dative. Okay? And then lastly, and I'm going to go ahead and point and include this exercise. I'm already at 17 minutes. I'm going to cut this short here because I don't want to keep you guys too long. I just want to point out these basics. So let me go ahead and minimize that. Dative, adjective endings, and just adjective endings in general. And so nominative, der rote, das blaue, die braune, okay. Ein roter, ein blaues, eine braune, deutscher Wein, kaltes Bier, frische Milch. Okay, I've gone over these before in the tutorials, okay. But let me see something here. Remember, the dative adjective endings, as long as they have an article preceding it, makes it quite simple because the dative adjective ending is always going to be en. Die Frau mit dem eleganten Kleid, mit einem eleganten Kleid. Okay, so it's always en in all these examples here. All right. It will change if they are unpreceded. Okay. For example, and let's look at this example here. Zu deutschem Bier ist deutsche Weißwurst. Okay, so zu deutschem Bier, with German beer, or to German beer, he only eats German sausage. Okay, so it's zu deutschem. So it's unpreceded because there is no der word or ein word or definite or indefinite article that precedes it. Okay, viel Glück für morgen. Okay, good luck. As I said, go over those articles, those texts over Berlin. I would go over the article about Currywurst. Review your blog posts. Make sure you do all your blog posts. Make sure you do all of your assignments. Study the vocabulary from the Wortschatz and then the Grundwortschatz. Those will probably be a good help for you. Go over the tutorials that I have, and then also review the homework that we've gone over. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Dankeschön. Tschüss.